Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
Songs by the Beatles have never failed to delight their listeners. And now many of the words of those songs on paper are delighting library goers as well. Mark Phillips will take us browsing.
On a busy road in London sits the British Library and its collection of about 170 million literary works and historic documents. Some of them are given pride of place in the Treasures Gallery. Oh, you know, original works of Shakespeare, handwritten musical scores by Beethoven, the Magna Carta, only the first recorded attempt at constitutional government, and this, a collection of original lyrics of Beatles songs, scribbled on scraps of paper, or the backs of envelopes, or on a child's car. Yesterday,
all my troubles seem so far away.
Ticket to Ride.
Nothing can gonna be sad. I think it's today.
A Hard Day's Night.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog.
The music seems everlasting, but the lyrics were disposable, throwaways.
I was with them when they were writing so many of these songs.
Until Hunter Davies picked them up.
Yeah, well, the Beatles never seemed to, John and Paul, the main writers, never seemed to have any paper in the house. They had these massive houses, but they never had stationery on notepads, so the song suddenly came to them. Obviously the music, they played the guitar, or the piano. But when they came to write the words, they were going around the house saying, give me some paper, give me a scrap. There's no one on my wavelength.
Hunter Davies has now assembled the scraps, those he collected when he hung around with the Beatles as their official biographer. That's him on the lower left with the band and the Maharishi, and with Paul on a family vacation. He took his lyrics and those he borrowed from others and put them into a book. Once the songs were recorded, the Beatles lost interest in the scribbled notes.
You haven't played to them before. And late at night on Abbey Road, I would say, I'm going to write about this song. Can I have this? This being a scrap of paper on which they scribbled the words. And the words would be perhaps changed. Perhaps Ringo would come in and they said, Ringo, this is what we're doing tonight. So at the end of the day, and they would say, yes, you can have them, because the cleaners would burn them.
I need somebody.
And those original lyrics tell secrets of how the songs came to be.
Whereas that help, that's John scribbling out.
And he scribbles on a line which says, when we were young, much, what is it?
Much younger than we were today.
Right.
So he's having trouble with that line.
You didn't like the scan,
yeah.
That line.
And so it crosses it out, and the one below is the one we used when I was younger, so much younger than I am today.
When I was younger, so much younger than today. I never needed anybody's help in any way.
And the memorable pop lyric was born on whatever scrap of paper was handy.
This one here,
It's been a hard day's night.
A Hard Day's Night, which is the theme tune from the film, A Hard Day's Night.
Right.
And that particular manuscript is written on the back of a children's birthday card to Julian,
John's son. But when somebody suggests a change, John agrees.
Oh, that line's a bit poor. My tiredness is through. And John says, you're right. And immediately gets his pen out and crosses out my tiredness is through and changes it to the things that you do.
But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel alright.
But whatever the cultural significance of A Hard Day's Night, should it and the Magna Carta really be in the same room? So, it's only the Magna Carta.
It'll never get in the top 10.
Never
Those
make
words are awful.
Never make the hit parade, and you can't read the lyrics. Hunter Davies tells the story of this scene when the Queen opened the library's new building in 1998. She provided a royal lesson as to why the Beatles are not out of place here.
And when she opened it, she did what we're doing now. She walked round. But she couldn't stand long here because she can't read medieval Latin
Right.
any more than
Okay.
you can
Right.
or I can. But she stood longest at this case just opposite, a few feet away,
Right here, let's go.
reading
Yeah.
yesterday, because she knows the words of yesterday, because she's a human being alive on the planet, and so she can, and it's also very nicely written.
But nicely written slowly. Yesterday may be the most covered song in history, but the tune was written long before the words.
Said something
To fill the gap, Paul McCartney would sing the phrase scrambled eggs until he came up with,
yesterday.
and sometimes the oddest words were mixed together.
I read the news today, oh boy.
John's unfinished lament on life's banalities was combined with the scrap of an idea from Paul.
Woke up, fell out of bed, tried to go.
So they came into the studio at this time, at the end of Sgt. Pepper, with two scraps that were not connected.
Just had to look.
And their producer, George Martin, put the scraps together into what became A Day in the Life.
The thing about the Beatles is that the further we get from them, the bigger they become. There's 2,000 books about the Beatles, and there are probably in America 5,000 people studying the Beatles at American University, and they will get a PhD out of that.
And now they've got a lot more material to work with. Once worthless scraps of paper are now worth a lot of money.
Some of these scraps here are worth $1 million each.
Really?
That's what they're being sold for. And even the smallest scrap is probably $250,000.
They really are the gift that keeps on giving.